Oh, that sucks. Sorry for anybody who got a bit confused there. Apparently I disconnected and reconnected. I don't know why, and I don't know how. My music didn't stop, mind. So, how weird. Register validator. Okay. So we've instantiated that, which means that we should have set up the constraints. Okay, so we should be able to get the constraints. So I think what I'm going to do is create another method in here called getConstraints. I can't spell constraints to save my life, and it's actually collection of constraints. Get constraint collection, and we're just going to return this constraint collection. And that is a collection of constraints. Okay, so we can test the constraints that have been built by getting them. Now, I'm thinking for things that are dynamic, like if I have to put in a dynamic constraint, that might be a bit tricky. I was thinking about this last night. Like I registered with the same username just to see what would happen, and yeah, it did catch fire. So I would need to create some sort of dynamic check that it would call the database to make sure that the username isn't used, or the email isn't used, that kind of thing. So at some point I'm going to need to attach Doctrine to this somehow. That'd be fun. Okay, so we got the constraints here, got the constraint collection. Equals validator get constraint collection. Constraints. Okay, so what can we do with this? So we can get the fields. So we can make sure that the fields are that's an array of fields, isn't it? So we can get the fields, we can get the required options, we can get missing field message. Oh, okay, we can set those, fine. So that's an array of fields. So we could traverse the fields and make sure the fields are okay. So I'm going to call this constraint test. Okay, all right. So we could do for each. So unless, actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to need to do a var dump just to see what is actually in these fields. Let's just comment those out for a minute. And let's add this as a group. I think I can do this. So this is validation, validator, user, register. There we go. And then I think in codeception, if we did bin, is it codesep? I can then do run unit, and I think I can pass in the G as group, and it should run that. There we go, and print back the what I've dumped out. So what I've dumped out here, so we've got the username. Okay, so we can check the keys. So we can do this. This, oh no, it's I, isn't it? Something about in array or something like that. I assert array has key. Username, passing in the fields. Wonderful. So there should be also another one, which is the password. And there should be another one, which is the email. Is it email or email address? We'll find out if it fails. Okay, they've all passed. Good, good, good. So, can we now look at actually hammering the patterns of these things? So, let's take, for example, the username. We have constraints here. So, could we do... How do we get that? We would do fields... We would do something like fields, username, and then that would be the constraints, which would itself be an array, I think. Let me just dump that out. Hey, I'm back. So it is class constraints. These are required constraints. Class constraints. Public constraints. So can I do... I'm guessing now. Can I do get constraints? I should probably just check the docs, but... Let's just try that. No. So it's constraints required. I'm going to just look that up. Where's me window? Constraints as citation, that's not what I'm after. I'm after Symfony component validator constraints required. Extends existence, okay. So we have, okay, we've got get default options and get composite options. Extends composite. These are all protected methods. That's a public method. Extends a constraint. But I think this is, isn't it an array? No. So that is an object. And The validator constraints in real life. A constraint could be the... Okay, in Symfony... Public payload, public groups, public message, public constraint, length, so that's an array. I basically want to get these somehow, and I'm not sure how. Public constraints. Minimum messages. It's public, it's public, it's public, so I should be able to do... It is public, yes. So I should be able to... I'm talking to myself now, in my head. It should be that. That should return... Hey, buddy. Murphy's joined. Oh, Murphy's taken one of my PHP elephants. Bear with me a minute whilst I grab that. I'll be back in a mo. Sonny has just survived. Something fell off of him. What fell off of Sonny? Something just fell off of Sonny. Sonny has just survived the jaws of Murphy. Nice. Okay, so yeah, it is an array here, so we can get the actual constraints. So we have a length. So we could, if we wanted to, we could loop through these constraints, and we could check that there is length involved here, and not blank is involved too. So this here we go. This array username. Well, it's fields username. No, it's fields username constraints. And it's not has key. It contains a class instance. So how would I do that? Asset array has key contains needle in a haystack. Count does not contain, string contains, no. Could we do something like this? Could we do length class? Is that acceptable? No, I don't think it is. I've got a feeling that's going to fail because I'm comparing a string to an actual thing. Murphy! Go on. Off you go. Funny lad. Funny lad. Thank you. So, what am I trying to do here? I want to try and make sure that there is a length in this constraint. That's what I want to do. So, now the thing is, if I scroll up here, it is the class. So I would need to check the class instance, which means that I would have to build this, which is a little bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut. I guess what I could do is I could loop through this, but I think I'm thinking. So I want to make sure that the username is required, the password is required, and the email is required, essentially. And so these would be in the required fields, and just scroll up to this point here. There we go. Constraints length constraint has 2. It's a shame that it's just an array with a key here, so I can't really check the key as well. I mean, I could do this. It's a bit dirty, but I could say, right, the first one in the username constraints, I could say assert instance of. I could say, right, the first one needs to be a length constraint. And then I could say, right, okay, well, the second one needs to be a not blank constraint. Ooh, no, that failed. Oh, sorry, that needs to be number 2. I've broken it. What have I broken? Oh. Murphy says hi. Okay, so we're checking that these things are being set up, I guess. We're not checking the patterns as such, but we're making sure that there are constraints against these. So I could do the same thing for, say, the password. So with password, we are, and I'll do the same for email. I know that this is all going to throw errors, but that's what we're here for, right? Okay, the error here is length of email. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to tell me what these things were. So that would be email constraint. Okay, good. Good. So at least I can see that that it is being set up correctly with these things, which is great. So that's testing the setup. Oops. And we could go even further and check the patterns and all of this stuff if we wanted to. It's a step in the right direction. So the next thing I'm going to do here. So we've essentially tested this function and this function, essentially, because we've instantiated the constructor. So let's see if we can throw things at it, right? Let's see if we can throw things at it. You know, the whole point of this is to see if I can break this outside of this method. So we will do another public function, and we'll do test valid registration. Sorry, test validator. There we go. So it will take this. We'll create our data, which could be a data provider, of course, but let's just keep it like this for the minute. Username. Now we know that pfisher2 with the password of test 1 2 3 4 5, because you've seen that on stream, plus the email. I think I had it as test@test.com. I mean, we should have a faker in here installed, so I could use the faker to fake all these things. So, right, we're going to set this thing up again as we've done before. So we set up the validator, but this time we just do validator, and we do is valid, and we pass in the data, and we do this assert. Oh no, it's not this. It's I assert true. I'll have this as the group. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then I'll run the tests. Okay, so they've both succeeded. That's great. So let's go and test an invalid user. So test invalid. So let's say the email's wrong, right? So let's say this doesn't have an @ symbol. So this should be assert false. And let's make this invalid email a little bit more verbose. So that should return false. Which it does. Good, 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 good. But now you see I've got the ability to hack upon this and just see if I can change and manipulate this and see what the minimum is and the maximum characters are, and you know, all of this stuff. So like what happens, for instance, if I don't put anything in, if it's just all blank? And we can use data providers to do this, because if you see, the tests are essentially just that, to be honest, aren't they? So we could create some data providers. So let's do that. I'm going to have a look and see how that works, because I haven't done that in a long, long time. So it is Codeception data provider. Just having a little read, a little nosy on the documentation here. There must be something in here about data providers somewhere. Example, notation, annotations, passing in. Is this it? Is this it? What if I want to execute the same test scenario with different data? In this case, you can inject examples as Codeception example instances. Data is defined via the example annotation using JSON. So does this mean that this is going to then call each one of these things? Interesting. Let's give it a blast, shall we? So in my case then, we would have, let's pick on this one. So this is test. Let's do the ones that are invalid, okay, because there's two of those. So I mean, that's running off of the API tester. I'm assuming this is okay for unit tests. So let's do example. Is that going to bring it up? What's the namespace of that? Example. Codeception example. Don't need that. Codeception example. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So we're going to do @example. And the example here is an array which follows this sort of convention, I think. API to, hang on a minute, no, this is wrong. This is the response, this is the call. This is the URL. I am on page, yeah, title H2. That's not what I'm looking for, is it? Data providers, here we are, it's right at the bottom. Protected data provider, and then you put in page provider. Aha, gotcha. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so you create an array for each of these instances, I think. I see in title. I see in. Is that right though? I am on page. Okay. For every instance. Okay, so I am on page URL. Right. So that's the URL of here. Fine. And then the title. Gotcha. I think this is what we need. So we're going to do, I think I can call it a different thing. I don't have to call it data provider, page provider. I can just do data provider. So this will be that as the first thing. I think this is right. I hope this is right. It's going to have to be in, is it going to be in a, yeah, it's a multi-dimensional array. Fine. So that's the first one, and then the second one, what was that? Was a test without the email. There we go. So that's the first one. The second one is just blank. Like that. Okay, good. Good. So then on here we do codeception example, which I've done here, and we are putting in the data provider. Gotcha. So that would be data provider, and this would point to this here, which would be data provider rather than page provider. And now we can actually run through. So what it's doing essentially is it's looping through these and pushing them down into there. So I think that is correct. Example URL. So I think I could probably just pass in example. I think. So let's just do test invalid. And then let's remove that. Fingers crossed. I think this is the way it works. So I've just put, I just used the command shift and alt and then I think it was L to automatically put this at the bottom because it is protected. Expected array, but codeception example was given. I'm dubious, but we'll see. No. Must be a type of array, but on an object was given. Yeah, okay. So that is definitely URL. So I don't want to. Let me just var dump that and see what that is. Example. Can I get like count get iterator? Can I get? There isn't like a get. There's just a count. So the example is that doesn't have any documentation. This isn't going to help, I don't think. No. Test invalid. Protected data. I wish there was a way I could just do get data. Okay, let's hack it. Let's do an array and an array. Because if you think of it, the first thing is going to be an array, right? This is thinking completely outside the box here. So let's do... Is that right? So we're going to have data. Let me see if I can just get one to work. So that would be example data. No. Example data doesn't exist. That's weird. It does, it's here. It's right in front of you, it's there.
What you do will change the world.
Test invalid. I essentially want to pass in an array. Okay. So it needs to be like this, doesn't it? It needs to be a multi-dimensional array of arrays. I think. Is that right? Yes. Oh man, this isn't the most straightforward. So, hang on, let me get my stuff in a line here. All right. So I need to create another array of blank data. So hopefully now this will run 2. Which it does. You see here, it runs that one, and then it runs this one. Crikey. Okay. Oh, it makes sense, I suppose, because we are passing in the data variable here. So yeah, it does make sense. It's just, I can get my head around it. I can get my simple little head around that. But it means that we can construct all sorts of invalid data here for it to throw at it to test. Likewise, we can do the same thing for valid data as well. So I think what I'll do is I'll call this invalid data provider. And we'll do the same thing, but for valid data. So we know already that that is valid. So in the valid data provider here, so in example, and we need to give it to the data provider. Cool. Good. So we're testing valid data and we're testing invalid data. Wonderful. I mean, that's good. I like that. Okay, so we've conquered that, and we've conquered this. So when it comes to it, now I don't actually have. I want to create an acceptance test to test the whole thing. That will be my sort of thumbs up to say that the changes have been made. So I won't actually hack this up yet. I'll just go through the other bits and pieces. So we've got obviously the JSON decode stuff that needs to happen, but we've also got and the handling of the errors. But essentially, this will be replaced. If I was to just put in some pseudo code, we could do some validator. We could even put it in as a dependency up in here. Validator equals new register. So that would be coming through as a dependency, and then we can just do is valid data, right? And then that's it. So that replaces that and all of that. That single line of code, because if that gets registered up into the validator up here, as a dependency, then it's automatically going to be doing all the setups and all the bits and pieces. I've gone too far, sorry. Yeah, so in one line of code, we've managed to already do the setup of the validation and the validation itself, which is a win in my book. So the next thing is this monstrosity, which is the constructor of the entity. And I tell you what, let me just, because I haven't done it in a while, let me just do a PHP stan. Can I do a reverse search on this thing? Yeah, I can. Path validate. Oh, I've changed the name, haven't I? So hopefully that'll come out good. Good. Okay, so let's tackle this and this. So really, this is the construction of a user, and then no worries. Have a great day, Tyrannid. Thank you for joining. And then here is the updation. Updation? That's a word. Enjoy your day, Tyrannid. So I would like that to be in its own little magic method type thing, service. That's the word I was looking for, service. So in manager, user manager. So this is a manager that deals with the entities and deals with the the relationship. Well, not the connection, I suppose. The association, I guess. That's not the right word. It deals with the management. There we go. As a manager, deals with the management of the entities and their and the database table. So this is actually extending, I think, the base manager from FOSS user. So and there is a create routine which just returns a new entity, which is a little bit weird in my opinion, but whatever. So that will return a user entity. There's a lot of wrapping of code here, which I'm not a fan of. But hey, we could, if we wanted to, we could create a new routine in here called create or something, or sign up or something that does all of this stuff. However, I don't think I want it to be connected to the database at this point. The thing is, with the user manager, with if I go to the base manager here, you can see that it has the object manager and other bits and pieces. So I'm just thinking in terms of mocking this out is going to be quite painful. And really what I want to do is just construct an entity, because essentially that's it. It's a wrapper for an entity. Really, you pass in some data and it just returns an entity. Then we can work on something else that then manages that entity. So it's like an entity builder or an entity hydrator. So maybe I create another class that is called user hydrator, which creates, or no, hydrator is probably not the right word, because hydration has connotations for hydrating from the database. So maybe I should just say user constructor or user construction or user builder. That's probably a good thing. User maker. Yeah. So I'm not sure I want to do it in here. That's what I'm basically trying to say. If I was, let's just do it as for argument's sake, I would do public function, say make, all right? And I would put in username as a string, the string is a password, and we've got email. That's what I was looking for, email. And this would be a wrapper. Oops. it would return a user, and it would do essentially this. So where are we in here? So we would pass in the username, we would pass in the password and the email, so that's fine. Set method of user is not found. Really? Entity user, why is that up there twice? Okay, username. Set plain password, set email, set enabled, set roles, set super user, and then return. So we could just return the user. So it's like a little helper routine that just wraps this logic in. So we could do make, and these could be properties, I suppose. So in not there. Where's my music gone? Thank you. So we have the user manager already. That's passed through. So this could be user manager make. Have I called it make or create user? Make. What did I call it? I called it make. So why can't I access it? Oh. Hang on. Am I calling the right one? User manager. Oh, it's an interface. Bugger. It's an interface, which means, and because I'm putting in custom methods in here, it's not going to find those. Base manager. I bet that implements a user manager interface somewhere down the line. Yeah. So we've hit our first little annoyance. All right, let's just see if we can get around this by putting in. I don't want to call my user manager interface. I don't want to be putting in a concrete class interface. Interface, user manager interface. It can extend user manager interface. This is going to get confusing. So what we can do up here is obviously put in the namespace, definitely. But we're also going to do use that as base manager interface 33. That's fine. Base manager interface. Okay, cool. Let's tidy that up a little bit. All right, so we're going to have a public function make, which is going to have a string, username, another string, which is a password, another string, which is an email. Can't type. That is also going to return a user. This is, why is this red? Why is that red? So this can then implement the user manager interface. Good. Which now means, hopefully, I can change the register routine. Wherever that's gone. It's not here, it's the auth. Change that to be user manager interface of where did that go? Where did that go? User manager interface. Here. I think I can replace that with this one. Which means down here, I should be able to now have my make routine. Lovely. Username. Password. Email. Wonderful. So that replaces this stuff. And this will return the user, which I can then attempt to update. So all of this goes. Well, in fact, what we can do is we can replace that with data username, data password, and data email. Wonderful stuff. That goes. Bye-bye. In fact, we can tidy this up a little bit. Oops, get rid of that. Sorry, move that over here. So we make the user, then we update the user. No. Now I could probably wrap this into two actually. So with the make routine, because that's going off to the user manager, we also have the update here. So I wonder if I should just call that save rather than update, because then that means that it could either be updating or save or creating, right? So let's just change that to save. This is probably going to cause a lot of pain somewhere else down the line, but this is what these tests are for, right? So we could then call that save. And because this is running against the... Is that going to... Where's the PHP stand on this thing? Is that going to pick up an error here? Parameter JSON or function decode expects... That's fine. I know that. Cannot cast to a string. Interesting. 984. That's new on me. Okay. Okay, fine. And then 89, call to undefined method save. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. So with the user manager interface, have a save routine. With the save routine though, am I passing anything in? I must be. Entity. I'm passing in an entity, and the entity is user. Okay. Okay. Does this also have, it returns itself. returns the user manager. Okay. Now that needs to be. That needs to return the user manager interface. That's what it needs to do. There we go. So this means now I should be able to wrap this into one little thing. So I could do make and save, and make and save could public function make and save takes all of this, does this make, passing in all of this, and we could then do this save. And what shall we return this as? I think we should return the user. I think we should return the user after we've made and saved it. I think it's probably a good idea. And again, I'm going to have to. There's an error here. Where's an error? There's an error. Why is this red? This is red somewhere. This is red. Down here. Ah. Always missing the colons. Always missing your colons. So I need to create this as a user manager interface jobby. If I can find it. Where did that go? Validator interface. Nope. This one. So this is now make and save, which wraps these two together. Wonderful. Which means that the auth controller just does make and save. That's it. So we've really reduced it. We're starting to reduce these things down quite a bit. In fact, we don't need to. We just need to do that. So what's happening here with the validation routine? Let's see if we can hack this up a little bit. So 43. Okay. So here we do. Register validator. Okay, so to get rid of this, we would do validator is valid data. That would now remove that. That would go above. We'll deal with this soon. Violations of data, that's fine. This would then go into here, which is so if this is false, then we throw this, and what we do is we get the violations. We then try and save it. So we've already reduced this code by a fair amount. So I need to work through this. I need to work through this. Obviously, I need to write tests for these things as well. There's 3 responses going on here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. This is 400. This is 400. I could probably put these together somehow, because the only difference between these 2 pieces of code is the error message.
Hello, coders.
Right, so they're the same response. So I could create a routine that deals with this. In fact, I could also include that as well and just change the error response, the status code. Sorry. Thank you, Element, for following. Do appreciate that. Thank you very much. So I could create a exception service for the APIs. That makes sense to me. Where I'm just passing in the message and the status code. Okay. So let's change this up. This needs to be 2. This needs to be 3. I think we started on 9. So it's gone down a fair bit. 3, 4. That's not 4. And 5. Before I shoot off, let's see if there's any more than 4 errors. There is get violations invoked parameter 0, 1. 1 is required. Oh, really? What? Hey? The data needs to be put in. Sorry, there we go. Of course. Three errors. Cool. Okay. So that's somewhere else. This is the decode thing that I will be fixing. And there's a casting issue here. Cannot cast to a string. So there's something going on with that. Get violations. This is a violations list. Okay, so I'll have to create a routine for that as well, I think. But, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. A little bit more work, a little bit more time. Thank you, Elamot. That's very kind. I wish I could play chess. I don't know how to play chess. I'd love to know. They are extremely brainly people. Extremely smart. Very kind of you to say. Unfortunately, I've got work to do. I'm a freelancer, so I need to shoot off and do some work, which isn't this. It's Vue.js and Symfony and MySQL fun today. Unfortunately, I won't be streaming on Sunday. So I will be back on Tuesday morning at 7 in the morning GMT, and we'll be working on this. I'm sure over the weekend I will actually do a bit of this over the weekend, I reckon. I don't think there's ever a day where I don't code. I wouldn't know what that feels like. But anyway, lovely to speak to you all. Thank you all for joining. It's been great. It's been a blast. We've done a lot of good work here. We started with 4 tests, and now we have, I think we've got, if I was to run this all, I think we now have 6. It's going to crash now as I've asked it to do this work. It's gonna fail. Right, I think. Oh, here we go. We got 8. We got 8 tests. Had to think about that. Oh, it was because it was making. No, it wasn't. No, it was just being really slow. Cool. So we've now upped it to 8. So it's getting there. It's getting there. Cool. Anyway, I've got to shoot off. Thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everyone. I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye bye.